after a life of hypocrisy, of plotting and planning against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah bin Ubay was laying down on his deathbed. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam visited him, and this is according to Muhammad ibn Ishaq. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he saw in his face the signs of death, he told him, "Ama wallahi in kuntu la'anhaka an hubbi Yahud." In the name of Allah, I used to warn you from loving the Jews. So Abdullah bin Ubay said, قد أبغضهم أسعد بن زرارة فما. As'ad bin Zurara, he despised them, and what did that do for him? So until his last moment, Abdullah ibn Ubay was still having split loyalties. And this shows us an important sign of the hypocrites, and that is that they have loyalty to the kuffar, and they have loyalty to the Christians and the Jews. And this is a sign that has repeated itself in Quran more than once. فَتَرَى الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ يُسَارِعُونَ فِيهِمْ. You see that the ones who have a disease in their heart, these are the munafiqeen, they are hastening towards them, towards the disbelievers. So the munafiqeen cannot get this love of the kuffar out of their hearts. It is hikmah of Allah Azza wa Jal that Abdullah ibn Ubay would not survive Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam and would actually die before him, because Abdullah ibn Ubay was living with hope, with aspirations, that by being patient and by being not facing the Muslims directly like the kuffar are doing, but by choosing the path of nifaq, he would be able to withstand he would be able to go through what he perceives as a temporary phase, and that in the end he and his people and his ideas would survive. And that's the thinking that they used to have, that by sitting tight and waiting, they have a chance, and that this Islam thing is a temporary thing, it's a phase that's going to come and go, and people are going to get back to normal. And he was living with these hopes, especially that he felt that it was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who stripped him of his power and authority, because as it says in the books of Seerah, his people were planning to appoint him as king over them. And that is when Rasulullah ﷺ made hijrah and his plans were shattered. So Abdullah ibn Ubay ended up dying before Rasulullah ﷺ, and the religion of Islam survived, and the way of the munafiqeen is a way that dies, and they face Allah Azza wa Jal on the Day of Judgment and have to face His wrath. There's a very important figure within the movement of Riddah. His name is Al-Rajjal bin Unfuwa Al-Hanafi. Al-Rajjal bin Unfuwa was part of the delegation that came to meet Rasulullah ﷺ from Banu Hanifa. Banu Hanifa, just as every other Arab tribe, has sent a delegation paying homage to Rasulullah ﷺ and giving him bay'ah on Islam. And by the way, Musaylima was a member of this delegation, and he did give Rasulullah ﷺ bay'ah on Islam. In one narration, in another narration, he was actually guarding their belongings and he didn't attend the meeting itself. But anyway, Banu Hanifa were followers of Rasulullah ﷺ. So Rajjal bin Unfuwa, he stayed behind and he was attending the halaqat of Rasulullah ﷺ, and he memorized a significant portion of Quran. So you can say that he had some ilm, he had some knowledge. And then Rasulullah ﷺ sent him back to his people to sway them, to bring them back, to convince them that what Musaylim is doing is false. Al-Rajjal goes there and he turns around 180 degrees. And he becomes a murtad. And his fitna was worse than the fitna of Musaylama himself. Abu Hurayrah radiallahu anhu said that I was once in a gathering with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there is a man among you whose molar tooth in hellfire is bigger than the mountain of Uhud. There's somebody sitting with us now. When he dies, he's going to go to hellfire, and his molar tooth is bigger than the mountain of Uhud. Abu Hurayrah said, everyone in that gathering died except me and the Rajjal bin Unfuwa. And I was very frightened because of that. Until I saw Rajjal claimed that Musaylama is a messenger of Allah, I knew that the hadith is talking about him. Because he was worried. The only two remaining were him and Ar-Rajjal. But then Ar-Rajjal apostated. Abu Hurayrah says about him, he was more significant in sowing discord among his people than was Musaylama himself. Why? Because of his knowledge. The fitna of somebody who has knowledge or a scholar is greater than any other fitna. People know that a disbeliever is a disbeliever. But a munafiq who has knowledge is very dangerous. And Rasulullah says in a hadith that the worst thing I fear for my ummah is a hypocrite who has a very nice tongue. Somebody who knows to play around with words. So when the scholar deviates, an entire people deviate with him. And that's why when Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal was told by some of his contemporaries that in your situation you are excused, you can give in to what your persecutors want, he said, if I speak what they want me to say, that would mislead all of the people. Because they wanted him to say that Quran is makhluk. They wanted him to say that Quran was created. He said, if I say that, then the people will go along with me. And he refused. And that's why the ahbar of Bani Israel, in the time of Isa bin Maryam, when Isa alayhi salam gave them da'wah, the ahbar, the scholars of Bani Israel, when they turned down the da'wah, the people did not believe in Isa alayhi salam. They said, our scholars did not say so. Our scholars did not give a fatwa to follow you. And that's why the people were deceived, and the only people who followed Isa bin Maryam were some fishermen and youth. But the masses remained behind their deviant scholars. So it's important to follow the scholars of haqq, because it's not just the knowledge that the person possesses that is a standard of how close they are to Allah Azza wa Jal. Iblis was very scholarly. And we know of many stories of like Bal'am from Banu Israel and others who were very scholarly, but they refused to accept the truth. I'm not saying that we shouldn't study from the scholars and learn what they say, because the scholars are needed to understand the ahkam. To know the ahkam, to derive the rulings, you would need to study under scholars. But to completely neglect Quran and Hadith, and just to go and study the opinions of scholars in fiqh, and abandon the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and abandon Hadith, is exactly what Umar ibn Khattab is saying. They followed their rabbis, they followed their priests, and they left the Torah and the Gospel. For example, today among the Jews, the Talmud is more important than the Torah. And among the Christians, for example, within the Catholics, the statements of the Pope are more important than what is in the Bible. The evidence, the dalil, the guidance, the huda is in the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla and in the hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Plus this scholar, you have no way of knowing for a fact whether he is on the right path or not. But you can't have any doubts with the ayat of Quran and the ahadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I mean, don't think that everyone who's a scholar is a righteous person. There are munafiqeen among every rank of the Muslims, among every profession. There are Muslim doctors who are munafiqeen. There are Muslim engineers who are munafiqeen. And there are Muslim scholars who are munafiqeen. Nobody has a protection from that. And what happened with the Jews and Christians is that they were misled and deceived by the ones who are supposed to be the most learned among them. Every deviant sect in Islam wasn't founded by ignorant men, by the way. Every deviant sect that existed was founded and promoted by scholars. Every single one. There's not one of those 73 sects that Rasulullah ﷺ said, 72 of them are going to go to hellfire. Not any one of them was promoted by an ignorant or founded by an ignorant man. All of them have ilm. So in order to know whether this person is on the right path or not, you need to go and check their statements and cross-reference them with the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And that's why I always tell the brothers and sisters, if you want to learn, if you want to become educated in Islam, read Quran a lot and go straight to the books of hadith. Who said that you can't go and read from Bukhari? Who said you can't go and read from Riyadh al-Salihin or Sahih Muslim? Is there some voodoo in there that prevents you from opening it up? Only a person who has special protection can read it? But then you go and read books that are purely opinions, pure opinions of men who are like you at the end of the day. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu used to tell the tabi'een, I tell you that Allah said and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and you tell me Abu Bakr said and Umar said. Ibn Abbas was angry with the people because they are referring to Abu Bakr and Umar and they're not referring to Allah and Rasulullah. What about today when we are referring to Fulan and Fulan and Fulan, so and so and so and so and so and so? Now please don't take these words as putting down the scholars. No. The scholars are the leaders of the ummah. They are the ones you study from. But you, as a Muslim who is given an intelligent mind, you're not insane. Right? I hope so. You have a sane mind, you have intelligence, and that is sufficient for you to be able to access the book of Allah Azza wa Jalla and access the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just make sure you don't make fatwa. Make sure you don't make fatwa, that's the thing.